Hi, I'm Glenn Rogers, and this is American Perspectives. Today we're going to talk about freedom of religion. This is one of our most basic and fundamental rights. In fact, it is the first right that is articulated in the Bill of Rights. Now, what made the founders include the idea of freedom of religion in the Bill of Rights? We're going to talk about that in this video. But first, I want to take a moment and ask you to help me out here. It would be extremely helpful to the channel if you would subscribe. Down below, there's a little button that says subscribe. If you'll click that, that tells YouTube that you like the content here. And what it does is it moves our videos up through their algorithm and allows more people to see them. So that's very helpful to us. Doesn't cost you anything, doesn't obligate you in any way. So if you would subscribe to the channel, we would really appreciate that a great deal. There's also a like button down there. It's a little thumbs up button. You can click on that. You can share these videos. You can send them over to other forms of media so other people will be able to see them, and that would be real helpful too. And there's a section for comments if you'd like to leave a comment. But all those things would be very helpful to the channel, so we would appreciate if you would do that. Okay, so why religious freedom? Why did the founders put that there in the Bill of Rights? There was a lot of history going on that a lot of people may not be aware of, and it's European history, but it has a lot to do with why freedom of religion was put in our Bill of Rights. After the fall of Rome, I mean, we're going way back in history now, the church stepped in basically and held Western society together, and the church then eventually evolved into what we now recognize or call the Catholic Church. And pretty much everybody in Europe was considered a Catholic. In the 1500s, there was the great Protestant Reformation, where some people wanted to be Christians, but they didn't want to be a Catholic version of Christian. And so they began what is called the Reformation Movement. And Europe was then divided. Some countries were very loyal to the Catholic faith, and they were a Catholic country, and some were not. They were Protestant countries. And there was a lot of problems that arose out of that. People were persecuted. If you were a Protestant in a Catholic country, then that was not good. It wasn't easy. If you were a Protestant, or rather a Catholic in a Protestant country, that wasn't good, and people were persecuted. And if you were something else, if you were Jewish or Muslim or something else, and it just, there were a lot of problems. And one of the reasons people came to America was to escape religious persecution. They wanted to be free. The Founding Fathers understood this. In fact, some of their, maybe their parents or their grandparents or great-grandparents had even experienced some of that persecution, and they knew very well what it was like. And so they wanted to be sure that in America, people had freedom of religion. So what did they do? In the very first amendment, in fact, the very first part of the First Amendment, they talked about the freedom of religion, and here's how they worded it. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Now, that's a pretty simple statement, but it's an extremely important statement, and we need to think about exactly what that means. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. What does that mean exactly? Well, it means that Congress isn't going to make a law that says, in effect, America will be a religious nation, or America will be a Christian nation, or not a Christian nation, or not Jewish, or not Muslim, or whatever. They're not going to make any laws at all about religion. People are free to choose their own religion, including the right not to be religious, if that's what they choose. Okay? But every person gets to choose their own religious faith, whether it be Christianity or Islam or Buddhism or Judaism or whatever. It's a person's right. It's a personal right, and it's a very personal choice. We have to be free to choose what our religious beliefs are. So that's the first part. Congress isn't going to make laws regarding the establishment of religion. People get to choose what they believe. But the second part of that phrase is very important, where it talks about the freedom to exercise your religion. Congress isn't going to make any laws about establishing religion or the free exercise thereof. Now, what does that mean? I think that's probably the most important part of the whole First Amendment, is the idea that you are free to exercise your religion. Different religions require different things of people. And there are a number of people in the country, non-religious people specifically, who are saying, well, yeah, freedom of religion is okay as long as you don't bother other people with it. You just need to do your religious stuff in the privacy of your own home. And it's a private thing, so keep it private at home. The problem with that is that's not what the First Amendment says, and that's not what the First Amendment means. One's faith is allowed to be expressed, whatever your religion requires of you. Now, many of you know that the Muslim religion requires that people pray 5 times a day, and they put down a little prayer rug and they face in the direction of Mecca, and they say their prayers 5 times a day. Okay, what if you're out somewhere at noon, which is one of the times you have to say your daily prayers, or what if you're on the job, or what if you're in school, or wherever you are? Okay, the First Amendment says that you have the right to exercise your religion. That means if you want to put down a prayer rug facing in the correct direction and do your prayers, that you have the right to do that. Nobody can stop you from doing that. What about Christianity? Let's say you're a Christian, and the Christian religion says that you should share your faith. You should talk with people about it. Well, see, some people are saying, no, you can't talk about that. Don't talk about it. Don't bother me about your religion. If you want to do that at home, go ahead, but don't talk about it in public. Well, the First Amendment says I get to talk about it in public if I want to. I have freedom of speech. That part goes with the First Amendment. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech. I get to say what I believe. I get to talk about it. Now, associated with that, as a logical step from that, people also have freedom of hearing, okay? If somebody's saying something with their free speech that I don't like and I don't want to hear, I don't have to listen to them. I can turn around and leave. I don't have to stand there and listen to somebody that I don't want to listen to. Neither do you. You don't have to listen to me. I don't have to listen to you. But we can't stop each other from expressing our beliefs, and religious beliefs are included in that. So we need to remember that, or the free exercise thereof. You know, a couple of years ago, there was a baker up in Colorado, got himself in trouble with the law. He was sued because he didn't want to decorate a cake which celebrated a homosexual marriage. Now, whether you think that's a good thing, a homosexual marriage, or whether you think it's not a good thing, isn't really the point. The cake baker and decorator was a devout Christian, and he did not feel that his faith allowed him to participate in that by expressing that this was a perfectly good thing for these people to do. And so he said, I don't want to decorate your cake for you. I don't want to do that. And maybe you can find somebody else to do that. Well, they took offense at that and they sued him. But the thing is, the First Amendment gave him the right to say, I can't participate in this because I believe it's wrong. I believe it's immoral. Okay? Now, whether the guy was right or wrong isn't the point. And you can argue this all day long. All right? Whether the baker was right or wrong to take that stand, the point is his religious faith told him not to participate in this, and the First Amendment gave him the right to say, I can't do this. And he wasn't ugly about it. He wasn't going out, marching and demonstrating against this or that or whatever. They came to him and said, would you do this? And he said, I'm sorry, but I can't. I can't do this. And, and then it turned into this big lawsuit thing. Well, the First Amendment gave him the right, with that phrase, or the free exercise thereof, to say, I can't participate in this, that you're asking me to do something that my faith says I shouldn't do. And so he had the right to do that. He had the absolute right to do that. We need to remember what freedom of religion really means. And no one, not the government, not the federal government, not the state government, not companies, not institutions, no person or entity has the right to deny you your religious beliefs. Okay? Now, let's think about it in relationship to COVID and things that have happened here. We have an emergency, and people being too close together and communicating and this sort of thing was a likelihood of passing COVID from one person to another. And so all sorts of locations where people went were shut down, and people couldn't go there, couldn't do those things. Some were bars, some were gyms and health clubs, schools, certain businesses, and churches. Well, now the question is does a governor who says we have an emergency, and there's no question that there was an emergency, okay? I'm not suggesting there was, not an emergency, there was. But in that emergency, did the governor of whichever state you live in have the right to tell you, you can't go to church? Well, I suspect that if this ever got to the Supreme Court, that they would rule that the governor can't do that because you have a constitutional right to the free exercise of your religious beliefs. And so if a religion like Christianity says you should get together every first day of the week, every Sunday to worship, then the government doesn't have a right to tell you you can't do that. No one has a right to take your religious rights from you. And it doesn't matter that there's an emergency. Okay? One of the things that the former Attorney General, William Barr, did is when this all started, he wrote a letter to all the governors and said, now you guys need to remember that the Constitution is not set aside during times of crises. That was a very polite way for him to say, we have an emergency, sure, but you can't trample on people's civil liberties. You can't deny people their constitutional rights. And so what you need to do to make sure that local officials, not just local, at all levels, local, state, federal, you need to write letters to all of your elected officials that represent you. Here in Texas, you've got a representative for your district, and you've got a senator for your district, and then federally, we've got congressmen and women, and we've got senators. Write all of them. Write all of them a letter and say, you need to make sure that our religious freedom is protected. You can't just take our religious rights and deny those in the name of some emergency. There's more to it than that. So be careful with the power that you give people. Make sure that they understand they cannot deny our rights. Well, that's our video for today. I hope you liked it. Let me encourage you again to hit the subscribe button, maybe the thumbs up button, to tell video folks at YouTube that you like this. And I hope you'll tune in to more of our videos. Thanks for watching.